Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Doing things a little bit differently this week. I did a small announcement on TikTok earlier, but I figure it's probably good to explain it a little bit here. There's a very dark side to EMS, and we all know it. We all talk about it amongst ourselves, but there's things that you're not really supposed to talk about, or that if you do, you get labeled certain things. You get labeled disgruntled employee, you get labeled conspiracy theorist, stuff like that. Well, something we've always tried to do on Paramedic AF is deal with the stuff that's really going on, to deal with the heavy shit that no one wants to talk about. And while there's things that we have referenced over, now almost 2 years, I feel like it's important to actually do a little more of a deep dive on some of these things, on the dark underbelly of EMS. Because if we don't actually dig in there, then no other superficial changes are going to mean anything. So, yes, we're going to have some very ugly conversations. And this is not meant to be just a shit-talking session about EMS. I love EMS. I love what it is and what it could be. But I also see that there's so much sickness in it, and there is so much corruption and so much toxicity. There's so many problems. And if we don't deal with them truly, then it's all for naught. And the sinking ship is going to sink faster. And ultimately, not only will it be a graveyard of a career, but if we don't deal with a lot of these more in-depth issues, a lot more patients are going to suffer. So we have to have these heavier conversations. Today I want to talk about corruption. And I know that's a very broad topic, and obviously corruption ties into just about everything we're going to talk about this week, but I think it's important to have a discussion up front about it. And I want to be very clear, too, that I am not going to be using names of agencies right now. That's not the place of this podcast. One, I don't have the resources to get into legal battles if some of these places decided to come after me, if I did actually say their names. But also, me saying a name of a place I worked before, or that I know of by reputation that does certain things or has done certain things, is not actually going to serve the purpose of anything. The point is to get these talking points out there so that the people who are in those arenas are actually able to deal with it and able to start challenging these things. So let's get a couple of fairly straightforward things out of the way, I guess. If you've been in EMS for any length of time, if something goes wrong, especially if it involves a member of leadership, it gets swept under the rug pretty quickly. There's usually a pretty quick move to get unpleasant things out of the public view. In the number one way this happens is scapegoats. Let's say there's a mishandling of narcotics at a particular agency. They're going to look for someone as a scapegoat to shift the blame to. And I find it very telling in these situations when there's a scapegoat and yet nobody goes to prison. Like, sorry, narcotics, if you're misusing narcotics and DEA's involved, someone's going to fucking jail. So the fact that there's scapegoats who all these accusations are thrown at them, after the fact, I think it's kind of funny that they don't go to jail. They just go to a different service. And it's like, but did they really do the thing? Or were they just a convenient excuse? Take from that what you will. Another variation of scapegoat that you see is when management labels people as a disgruntled employees. Now, are there plenty of people, EMTs, paramedics, whoever, that don't emotionally regulate, pick battles that they shouldn't, and cause problems that they don't need to have? Absolutely. Not going to argue that point. Happens all the time. But unfortunately, that allows for kind of a shield, if you will, for management to brand people that are calling them out for their issues. So when you have people who are voicing concerns over different things, they're bringing up issues, they are highlighting management's problems to them. Sure, maybe in the initial meeting things are listened to, but very quickly you find that that person becomes a problem child and is suddenly on the outs with everybody. And suddenly there's all these things that they're getting in trouble for, or they're suddenly getting a paper trail and are about to get fired. And the unfortunate thing is, if you're not in leadership, it's difficult to verify a lot of things because both parties can say what they want. But I've seen this circus enough times over the years. Management's not always innocent. Maybe half the time, maybe. So it's funny to me how the people who are ultimately doing management a favor by identifying problems. If you really think about it, if you have management that has an appropriate view of themselves and of their relationship with their teammates, they should be looking for critique. They should be listening to people who critique and engaging with them and not just stonewalling them, not just being like, oh, well, this is just the way it's always been. Like actually engaging with their ideas and allowing these people to be included. Again, there's obvious exceptions to this because there are people who are just difficult for no fucking reason, and that's not management's fault. But in general, it happens too much to suddenly be coincidence. I'll give an interesting example too of how vocalizing complaints will get a target on your back, and I will throw in a very important factor in this discussion that I've never been fired from anywhere, and there have been times in my career where I've done some kind of ballsy stuff in dealing with management. I like to cover, not cover my tracks, but like cross my T's and dot my I's. And if I go pick a battle, it's when I'm ready to fucking pick. And there's not a lot of contention on that. But I'll give you an example. This was from much earlier in my career. So I was a young medic. Like I was within my first year. I was working full time in 911, but I had a part time job at a place. And I, always had a good reputation with this particular place with the part-time job. And I had noticed over the last year that there had been some things that I was a little concerned about, the way things were being run, the way certain people were being treated. It wasn't things that like directly affected me, but there was a kind of a stench in the air. And so I was already making other plans. And so when I went into this meeting, I already was planning to resign. But I had a sit down with my director, who I had always had a good relationship with. And a matter of months before, management had offered me a job as a supervisor full time, which I declined because I was like, look, I'm a year into my paramedic career, so I don't have enough clinical experience, in my opinion, to go be a leader. But also, I want to sharpen my 911 skills for a while before I look at something like this. So it was all very pleasant and professional, and to my knowledge, there were no hard feelings about it. Everybody was hunky dory. That was the tone of my relationship up until this meeting, when I sat down with the director and I said, "Hey, here's my concerns. I've been seeing this stuff. I've been, obviously I'm friends with some of these people who are telling me things that are going on, and I'm just noticing patterns that are concerning and that don't bode well for the company." And I was met with a lot of political answers, and that's fine. It was not a heated discussion at all. It was very pleasant, and professional, and I never got angry, never raised my voice. It was just a, hey, like, I have a problem with this. On a personal and ethical level, I have a problem with this. I don't think this is the right thing. And it was clear that we were at an impasse, and so I gave a month-long notice, literally a 4-week resignation, which, most places you're only obligated to give 2 weeks. South Carolina, we're a right to work state, so there's, argument that yes, you can quit on the spot, but it's just generally frowned upon. I gave a month, and I worked my month notice. And, my notice expired. I left. I had no beef with people. It was fine. Well, next thing I know, somebody sends me some screenshots and says, "Did you see this?" And I won't relay what the screenshots were of, other than that it was a post, which this individual had shared and made some derogatory comments towards me. So I was like, "Huh, that's interesting. I hadn't seen this." Well, I would go to look, and this director had blocked me on social media, and I was like, "Huh, that's kind of cute." And I see these derogatory comments about myself. I was like, "That's really interesting. This person that, a few months ago was wanting me to be a supervisor is suddenly shit talking me." The only thing that's changed is, well, one, I left, but two, I had a conversation with him. It was a conversation that was between us. It was private. It wasn't something that I was parading around everybody else. And this individual presents himself as a motivational, inspirational leader in the EMS community, and it's just so funny to me. And obviously, since then, I've engaged with a number of people who've had similar experiences with this individual. This is not surprising behavior. All of that long-winded story to tell you that in EMS, the general trend is that if you contest anything with management, and make anything a hill to die on, you get a target on your back, and you are suddenly the problem. And you're going to start hearing stuff about you. You're going to start hearing rumors that you didn't hear before. You're going to notice a lot of things change, and just it doesn't stop until you leave. EMS is this funny thing where we want so desperately to be respected. We want so desperately to be recognized. And yet, on an organizational level, we do so many atrocious things and encourage so many atrocious behaviors. And we'll get to some more of that later on in the week, because obviously money plays into this, and how we hire, fire, and promote people plays into this. That's a lovely hot topic for everybody. But just at a baseline level, we need to establish that, unfortunately, generally speaking, EMS leadership has corruption to one degree or another. There's nepotism. There's the good old boy system. There's insecure leaders who are intimidated by people that they see as better than them. Even if those people aren't trying to come for their job, they want an opportunity. They're seen as a threat, because they are. They are an existential threat. If you are competent and confident, and you are truly somebody who believes in doing the right thing for everybody, for the patients, for the crews, for the agency as a whole, you are not going to be treated well. If that is your description, you're most likely not going to get any promotions. You're likely not going to move anywhere in EMS, because people are threatened by that. People are very uncomfortable with that. And it's so incredibly telling. And it's sad. It's sad that an industry that its sole purpose is to help people. Its sole purpose is to take care of the sick and the injured. It's so sad that that's the way we treat each other. That's how we operate at a baseline. Again, there's varying degrees to this, because there are a lot of agencies out there that do mean well. There are a lot of directors and supervisors that do actually mean well, that do the right thing. So, of course, all of these statements are very generalized, because there's thousands of services. But even just in the scope of where I live and work and have practiced, I have seen these trends. And the more we have gotten into this project, the more people I've talked to from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, they're all dealing with these same problems. The corruption is rank in EMS. It is so foul and has taken such a chokehold on our industry. And the only way to root it out, because obviously you can't depend on politicians to fix it, Good luck with that. The only way to root it out is by replacing the people that are causing it, but the people that are causing it are preventing the people that could fix it from moving up and actually fixing it. And they just promote people to keep the status quo, because what does EMS hate more than staying the same? They hate change. EMS hates change. So we would rather wallow in our own toxicity, wallow in our own corruption, and handicap our growth and development as an industry rather than bring in people that could actually make things better on a consistent basis. Not just promotions, but hiring and how we treat people who have tenure in an agency, or how we respond to new people. There's a lot of new people that will come in and be like, hey, this is fucked up. What the fuck are you guys doing? Those are the best people to listen to because they have a fresh perspective. So as we launch on this journey of dealing with the dark side of EMS this week, unfortunately, the norm is corruption and egos and cultural toxicity that is mind-boggling to a lot of other industries. And just, it's appalling. And so then the question becomes, well, what the fuck do we do about this? And like a lot of things, the answer ultimately is, I feel the tide is changing on a lot of these things, because what's happening when the aftermath of COVID allowed more people from a lot of different parts of the world, a lot of different walks of life, to all suddenly communicate with each other. And we're all able to talk and all able to see, wait a minute, you're dealing with the same shit that I am. You've got the same problems there that I do. Cool. We're able to shine lights on these things a lot more. The corruption hates attention. It hates people poking around and looking at it. Well, not only are people now more emboldened to poke around and look at it, but they're emboldened to expose what they fucking find. Because, cool, okay, maybe you lose your job, maybe you don't. But you did everybody else a service by highlighting a problem, and good people are going to stick away from it. And eventually, the corrupt agencies are going to have to choke on that. So, obviously, the way to fix leadership in an organization is new leadership. That's not always the option right now. But here's the other thing to consider. I would love to see the landscape of EMS culture change so much that the only options available for promoting people are the good people, are the ones that actually care and are actually going to do the right thing. That is a pipe dream. And I don't see how we will ever get there, because you will always have your dick suckers that will ass kiss their way to the top and circumvent this and do management's job for them. Basically, they don't have to curate out the good people. They are just able to attract the people that aren't going to challenge them, that are going to keep things the same, because those people just want position. They don't give a shit about positive influence. So ideally, the solution to this is, let's fix ourselves. Let's fix the ground level leaders, the people who do care about the job and are able to exert some influence where they are. And ultimately, it's going to mean putting pressure on these more corrupt agencies and organizations. And that takes time. You got to play a long game with this. You can't, this is not something where you can just stick your head up and start yelling and everybody rallies. You have this big, huge revolution and then boom, everything's better. No, it doesn't work like that. We have to play the long game, but everybody has to fucking play. If we can't get the majority of people to play, then we're fucked, because nothing's ever going to actually change. You have to learn how to play their game better than them, because the dynamics of power and influence are a messy game. They're very, very messy, dirty game. And unfortunately, people who are bound so strictly by ethics can't fight. So you have to learn how to have a backbone, have principles, but also know strategically how to handle yourself and engage. Let's think about this too for a second. Think about, a street fight or whatever, a self-defense kind of situation. Okay, you're not normally going to walk up to somebody and just clock them in the head. Fair. But if you're in a position where you're threatened, your family's threatened, you have to go deal with a threat, you're going to fight dirty. You're fighting dirty not because you enjoy it, not because that's the way you always are, but because you're trying to deal with a specific threat. So you have to fight dirty. Someone's trying to jeopardizing the safety of my family. I look really good in orange. But anyway, point being, just because you engage in tactics doesn't mean you're not principled. So think about it that way. Think about we have to implement tactics to meet these corrupt people where they are and engage with them because we're driven by something bigger and better. And we could spend hours talking about how that looks. And I always recommend people to read 2 books on this topic. Both are by Robert Greene. One is 33 Strategies of War. The book will change your life. And 48 Laws of Power. That will completely change your fucking life and how you look at the entire world. It would help a lot with the general landscape of the world right now, too, reading both of those, but especially 48 Laws of Power. So, as we're embarking on this, I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything, illegal or against your conscience or whatever. What I'm asking people is to think strategically. Think about ways where you are in your sphere of influence, in your agency, ways that you can play the long game and can ultimately undermine and circumvent the good old boy system, the corrupt agents, if you will. Again, is this all management sucks? No, I have had some phenomenal leaders in my years. Many people that I have worked under who have been inspirational to me in my career, who have supported me in many aspects of my life, not just in work. And I couldn't ask for better. But I'm asking, identify where the problems are, where they really are. Not just, oh, I'm pissed about this one little thing that inconvenienced me. No. Go actually look at how you can make a difference, what the real problems are, and go fucking deal with them. That's all I got for you guys. Be safe. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.